Hey everybody, this is Perch. And well, what we're talking about here is the Aftershock ownership structure. And there's some articles going out, and all credit gone to Chris Arant, who is part of Popverse now, used to be part of Newsarama. And he's still got that hat. He's still, his little photo still has that stocking cap. That's the look he's going with. Anyway, regardless, no shade there. He broke down who owns Aftershock, and the big headline there, the juicy part, is that there's a very familiar name who has an ownership stake, but maybe doesn't, and it's a 1% ownership stake, and that's Donny Cates. So the headline here is that Donny Cates is listed as one of the owners in Aftershock by the creditor. So Aftershock, of course, has gone into bankruptcy. It's 7 years. It was an LLC in 2015. And again, they incorporated in California. And I know this matters to all of like 1% of you, but always incorporate in Delaware. Anyway, Aftershock, basically, Access Road Capital is one of the largest groups coming to ask for money. And they listed the owners of Aftershock as John Kramer, Joe Pruitt, Lee Kramer, Mike Martz, Jawad Qureshi, Atlantic Screen Capital Limited, or a fund thereof. It's a little bit misleading. It's not the company, but a fund there. And Donny Cates. And so this is, of course, there's one name on there that, everybody, of course, wants to know what Joe Pruitt is up to. I'm just kidding. No, it's Donny Cates. So let me get the spoiler right out of the way, because a lot of this is going to get misinterpreted and already has started to. So Donny Cates received a 1% ownership stake in Aftershock. And it's unclear. We can guess based on some other people who've had deals with Aftershock, and individuals who have this sort of deal happen all the time. It is highly likely that Donny Cates, at some point, likely through Baby Teeth or a series he was doing through Aftershock, was basically in exchange for being paid, maybe for the rights for the character, maybe in exchange for some first look deals. Who knows what exactly he was given? But rather than given cash, he was given a 1% ownership stake in Aftershock. And again, it's hard to say, at what point this would have been worth money. Meaning, probably this was around 2016, 2017 when he was given this stake. Donny Cates signed an exclusive contract with Marvel in 2017. Marvel typically, not always, but typically doesn't allow people who are under exclusive contract to have a significant ownership stake in a competing company. That's a Disney rule as well. Now, in fairness, 1% of Aftershock is $100,000 at best in terms of net value, and we're being very generous there. So if you're assuming, and by this, if you're kind of backing into the math here, you look at the assets, you look at the liabilities, it's likely that, on paper, this company, now, obviously it would be trumped up if it was getting angel investment, which it was. But at the time Donny Cates would have come into it, at best, we're talking somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000 worth of value, except it's value in exchange for ownership. So that means that even this financial amount isn't necessarily what he would get in cash if he held out for cash. Regardless, we're speculating here, but the key point and the takeaway is Donny Cates did not, pony up a bunch of cash and invest into Aftershock. He was given this ownership stake in exchange for something. So work. But it's a way different story than the other people on this list who actually put in money, whether through a fund or through an angel investment or through a number of different things. Backing up a second, if you watch the other video about Aftershock, they list in the court filings $10 to $50 million in assets, $10 to $50 million in liabilities. I've said a few times now, and every piece of paper that comes off of this makes it more and more clear that it's a lot closer to $10 million in assets and a lot closer to $50 million in liabilities. Where it gets really scary is that as they're listing an asset, these aren't hard, tangible assets, which I think the bankruptcy filing is going to come and expose. It's more likely that a lot of these assets are perceived or market value assets, meaning what a show could conceivably get when it was, rated or scored, which probably isn't current. Now, why does that matter? It means that some of these properties, the entire purpose of the company was to line up some of this IP that could go into media. And in going into media, they're gonna assess a value on it. But in the last 12 months, Netflix and some of these other companies have plummeted. So, that asset is devaluing fast because it's not a hard asset. It's not like owning land. It's not like having cash in the bank. It's not like having, options out on other companies. These are perceived assets, and that just makes it very dangerous. But okay, I'm getting too nerdy here. Let me kind of back up a little bit. Number one, it's a highly likely possibility that Donny Cates doesn't even have that 1% anymore. It's quite possible Marvel made him give it up. It's also quite possible that, there was a buyout option. Sometimes when you're given ownership stake into something, it's like a stock option. 5 years goes by, you have the option to purchase it at that point with money out of your own pocket, or you let it go. A lot of us, almost every single person listening to this right now, chances are you've got money in another company somewhere as part of a fund. You probably don't even know what some of these companies are because that's how a lot of the portfolio investments work. But regardless, I think if anyone's going to try and make this out to be a black mark against Donny Cates, I highly doubt it. I'd be willing to bet that Donny himself is not even fully aware that he still has that investment, or if he is, he wrote it off some time ago. And again, 1%, it's not much money. And keep in mind one more thing: a 1% ownership stake doesn't mean you have access to that money. It's a stake. It's like if you have options in a company, you don't just get cash. You have to jump through several hoops to get that. You have to exercise those options. You have to take ownership of them. Oftentimes, you have to pay the market rate to get access. So it's not like whatever this is worth, based on the filings, based on what we know. Being an owner on paper of 1% of a company, hell, again, if you have stock options in your company, you are 0.001% of whatever company you work for as well. That doesn't necessarily mean you have that cash. It's not necessarily an asset to you. There's been if you want to look up a disaster that can happen, check out the 2007-2008 period where a lot of people in tech companies had borrowed against their options. If you want to see an absolute horror show. You're not supposed to count that money as yours until you actually exercise those options, but be that as it may. And it certainly was not a controlling interest, and it certainly didn't give him any power to actually make decisions over there. So it's not an issue. For all intents and purposes, it's not an issue. The summary of Aftershock continue, with every story that comes out, with every filing that comes out, and guess what? At this point, as we see how the bankruptcy is going to unfold, there's a 100% chance that it winds up this way. Look, the story behind this company is super, super simple. They got very, very deep into debt, and they were leveraging everything they could make and what creators were bringing to them in exchange for, a hope that it would become a Hollywood deal someday. And that's a terrible business model. It's a very shaky business model when things are going well because it's a lot of speculation, and it's an absolute shit business model when things are going poorly, which they are right now and absolutely will for a couple more years. The movie deals and the television deals and the pilot deals, they're not out there right now. They're just not. So this is not a good place to be in. Every single company that finds itself in this position. That includes people like Oni, to some extent Dark Horse, definitely Valiant, handful of others out there. I'm curious what Vault's up to. This is a scary place to be, and you got to be willing to sit back and have some cash. Or if you're like IDW, you have either angel investors or hard investors who are so deep into it that they're not going to bail out soon. We are in a crazy world where IDW is healthier than several other companies right now by sheer nature of where their money is coming from, which is nuts. But there you go. One last little postscript. I see a lot of advice flowing around, so I want to give creators who might be listening a little bit of advice. 2 parts. Number one, some people are telling you go lawyer up, and I saw Alex DeCampi give out the advice of lawyer up fast because a lot of these companies will just pay off the first 10 creditors. Yeah, that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. That's terrible, terrible advice. And not necessarily the lawyer up part, but definitely the get yourself in line quick. When a company goes into bankruptcy, they don't, it becomes a very formal process. They don't just start doling out money to the first 10 people who pester an editor. That is insane. Don't take advice from Alex DeCampi. She runs her life terribly. Why would you be doing that? The second piece is, in many cases, a lawyer can help you, but in this particular situation, and some of you may find yourself dealing with other comic companies who are in this situation, I said this before, get a financial planner. And why I say that is a lawyer can certainly help you with the legality of things, but a financial planner can actually help you determine, is the money even worth chasing? Before you spend money on a lawyer, you may get the call like you're going to lose more money than you make. You can also get good advice on when to take ownership stake and when to take options over cash. A financial planner will do that for you, particularly a good one. And a lot of these people are close to free. A Fidelity account, I think you can come in the entry at like $50 a year. I mean, seriously, that's what you should do. I would do that ASAP. And in some cases, good financial planners can actually give you lightweight legal advice. It's not the same as a lawyer, but it's definitely good if the topic is money. If the topic is rights, getting back ownership, kind of that kind of stuff, yeah, you need a lawyer. But if it's about your cash and how you get it, financial planner. But I want to restate, don't listen to Alex DeCampi. That's terrible, terrible advice. Anyway, so that's it. The latest. Donny Cates, yes, an owner. I feel bad because people send me these things and it's like, hey, what do you think about this? And I feel like I get to be the boring spoiler all the time. And I understand the views aren't as good for that. Right now, if we had a real juicy kind of thumbnail, with a screaming person like Donny Cates, owner of Aftershock, fucks it all up, that would get a lot of clicks. And maybe I'll do that as a joke. So we'll see. But look, life is actually usually not filled with drama. If you're watching YouTube videos, if you're reading Twitter, you think that comics and all this stuff is just crazy roller coaster of drama all the time. It's not. Go talk to a stockbroker sometime. Like, tell me all the juicy details about, these investment funds, or look at you like you're crazy. Life is usually boring, particularly in these matters. In this case, look, company leveraged itself. The deals didn't come through. They couldn't pay people. It hit too big, and they declared bankruptcy. They're basically, if you're looking at this ownership stake of people, my prediction is that basically Jawad, who was an angel investor and did some of this, some funds, and a couple of these other groups, in particular the Atlantic Screen Capital, which was another investment group. Those two people were probably bankrolling some of the day-to-day operations and decided they wanted to stop, and then they became insolvent. That to me is my guess as to what happened in terms of who no longer coughed up cash. But there you go. Anyway, there you have it. Donny Cates, owner of Aftershock. Sorta, not really. Fun. Thanks for listening.